What's up everybody, it's your boy Talon Kokai here, welcome to the video. Today we got two reviews in one video, the review of episode 94 and the review of episode 95. In case you want to skip to the review of episode 95, I'm going to put like a time on screen right now and you can just go to that part if you're not interested in the Chocho episode review. But I'm going to be very short because there's not much to talk about, when it comes to the Chocho episode. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Now, this episode got a lot of backslash from the fans, and the thing is, when you look at these episodes, you need to take into consideration that each episode has a purpose, and not every episode has the same purpose. So, for instance, people are saying stuff like, this episode had pretty much zero character development, it had zero plot progression, what was the point of it? And the thing is, we had a very big arc, a long arc, I should say. And after this arc, it's completely normal to get a couple of slow episodes, right? Which aren't supposed to develop the plot massively or anything like that. But specifically, episodes 93, 94, 95, they're from the Naruto Shinden novel. They're specifically slice of life episodes where we're just supposed to see these characters spending some time with their parents. As simple as that. It's supposed to be fun, casual, or whatever. It's supposed to be funny. And you can say that this episode, for example, is shit because it has no plot progression, because that's not the purpose of the episode. I think I talked about, the purpose of different episodes when I was reviewing episode 50, I believe, because that was the recap episode, and I gave it a 10 out of 10 because, in my opinion, it was a perfect recap episode. And when it comes to, chill slice of life episodes, this episode was great. My rating for it would be 8 out of 10, not 10 out of 10, simply because I felt like the actual time that Chocho spent with her parents, although it was, I guess, quality, like there were many funny moments, it still could have been a bit more rich in terms of content, if you get what I mean. But obviously this is subjective. When it comes to Chocho's character, you guys know that I'm not the biggest fan of Chocho's character, but then, in the last 10 episodes or so, I feel like she became better. She isn't as annoying as she was. She was kind of annoying in this episode, especially at the start when she was questioning her mom's choice to marry Choji or whatever. But then again, you can argue that Choji isn't really productive. He just eats and doesn't do much or whatever. Or maybe, not all the time, but, specifically that day he wasn't doing much or whatever. But yeah, it really depends. But overall, 8 out of 10 is a solid score because this was a good slice of life episode, in my opinion. And some of these moments were hilarious. Like, I remember there was this scene at the end where we see, I think, Shikamaru and Shikarai, or was it Sai or Inojin? I don't know, because I watched this episode about a week ago. It's just I didn't have time to review it. But after the eating festival or whatever, they were like that, their stomachs were like drawn like this, like it was hilarious. And then, like, on not only that moment but a couple of other moments as well. Another thing that I want to mention is that I really enjoyed Boruto's character in this episode, and yeah, 8 out of 10 for me. And right now we're moving on to the review of episode 95. Believe it or not, Sasuke trying to be a good father actually brought tears to my eyes because I have a very deep connection to Sasuke's character. Like, this might be kind of confusing to some of you because many of you know that when it comes to Naruto, like excluding Boruto, my favorite characters are Naruto, Itachi, Jiraiya, Minato, and Kushina, right? So, Sasuke isn't in my top 5, right? But still, I'm very, like, I really like Sasuke's character, and objectively, I think he's one of the best characters in all of Naruto. One of the most complex characters, definitely. And, seeing those flashbacks of him and Itachi and stuff like that. It was super emotional for me. But let's talk about this episode as a whole. Again, this was another slice of life episode that emphasized, Sarada's and Sasuke's relationship. So, first of all, I want to comment on Sarada. I liked her character in this episode. One might argue that she was very harsh to Sasuke when they were talking, but in my opinion, it's natural because, she doesn't seem too much, right? And she kind of has these huge expectations when it comes to, Sasuke, and I think Sakura acknowledged that in this episode. And by the way, I really enjoyed Sakura's character in this episode. She played a very important role. But anyway, yeah, Sarada was kind of harsh, but it's natural. And before Boruto told her that crucial advice that you just gotta be direct with your parent, she was kind of, I guess, struggling. She wasn't too happy. Side note, this episode, it wasn't supposed to have too many funny moments, but I was like, this episode had me rolling, man. Even more than the Chocho episode, and the Chocho episode had some hilarious moments. Like, in my opinion, the highlight of the episode when it comes to comedy was when Sasuke called Sarada my little peanut or something like that. I can't really remember. The cringe was too big at that point, but I was literally dying, man. I just watched the episode and it was hilarious. It was super funny. But it really shows that Sasuke has a hard time socializing. And when you look at his entire life, his upbringing, his childhood or whatever, and his tragic backstory and all that, it kind of makes sense. So, despite the fact that some of these moments were there for comedy, I guess, when, for example, the peanut example, or when Sasuke said, this candy is red and you like red, so I should buy it for you. Like, obviously, these moments are funny, but really, there's like a deeper layer behind all of that because it makes sense. That is the consequence of Sasuke's life. Not to mention that for the past, I don't know how many years, he's been wandering around the world and his social skills went down even more. But they will improve definitely as time goes by. Kakashi was there in this episode and I really enjoyed that little detail. And by the way, before I, continue with this review, I just want to quickly praise the Boruto series for kind of connecting the past 3 episodes because 2 episodes ago, the Himawari episode, at one point, as Naruto and Himawari were walking around Konoha, you could see Sasuke and Sarada in the background, and I even covered this in my review. When I was watching the episode for the first time, I actually didn't see it, but somebody on Twitter told me. And then in this episode, you have it like from a different perspective. You see Sarada and Sasuke walking, right? And then they see Naruto and Himawari. Now, in this case, you could clearly see Naruto and Himawari there. 2 episodes ago, you could barely see Sasuke and Sarada because they were all the way, back or whatever. They were in the background, basically. You could barely see them. Or maybe it's just that, I watched the episode over my iPhone. But anyway, I like how the Boruto, anime connected these past 3 episodes. In this episode, Boruto referenced the food festival or the food competition. I don't know what. It's probably food festival. Doesn't really matter. Don't know why I just spent a couple of sentences on that, but that was another one. I like that, and I'm here to praise the Boruto series for that. Obviously, the Boruto creators, not the series itself, because the series isn't a human being. Overall, this episode had a very nice flow to it. I really liked the flashbacks. I feel like they definitely enriched this episode by a lot because, Sasuke was thinking about himself when he was a kid, how he wanted attention, proper attention from his dad and obviously from his brother, the GOAT, Itachi Uchiha. And then you could kind of see parallels between his relationship with his father and his relationship with Sarada. We had that little sequence where they trained together. I thought that was great. When Sasuke was talking about Naruto and how how he once wanted to become the Hokage, but that Hokage would like be different than the current Hokage or whatever. And at that point, like, he was referencing Naruto, he was talking about him, and I think he called him a loser. And that's just so nostalgic for me, because it reminds me of some of the earliest parts of Naruto, and that part of the episode as well. That's when I really got emotional. Like, tears were definitely there when he mentioned Naruto. I like, it's my childhood, man. Like, the first arc of Naruto, the Land of Waves arc, is my favorite arc in all of Naruto so far, and I'm including Boruto in this as well. And back then Sasuke used to call Naruto loser very frequently, I guess, and it was just so nostalgic, man. I just loved it. And by the way, because I actually saw one or two people in the past like 2 months who told me that they started watching Boruto from Boruto episode 1, but they haven't seen Naruto and Naruto Shippuden. If that's the case, please watch Naruto and Naruto Shippuden. Doesn't matter if you know many things that will happen. Like, when I started watching Naruto and Naruto Shippuden in September of 2016, I actually knew pretty much almost like everything that was going to happen, because when I was a kid I watched it in like 2009, 2010, plus I watched a couple of AMVs throughout these couple of years, so like I knew many major things, right? And I still enjoyed it. It's my favorite series, and it's very important to me, very special to me. But yeah, anyway, going back to this episode, the relationship between Sarada and Sasuke was developed in this episode. At the start, it wasn't really going too well. You had some of these funny moments, but by the end, it gets much better. And at one point, Sasuke kind of encourages Sarada to follow Naruto's footsteps in becoming the Hokage, and you could see it by Sarada's reaction. Like, it was so genuine, and I really enjoyed that part of the episode. Definitely one of my favorite parts of this episode. Now, an interesting thing, and I can relate to this actually. Like, if you guys followed my channel for some period, you guys know that Boruto is the most relatable character for me, and that's why he's my favorite next gen character. But anyway, at one point, Boruto gives advice to Sarada. You all know that, but he didn't actually follow his own advice. He didn't do it until Sarada reminded him to be direct with his parents. And sometimes stuff like that happens with me in real life. Like, I would always give the most perfect advice, but despite the fact that I'm giving advice to other people, I myself don't do the thing that I'm saying to somebody else. Sometimes, not always. Obviously, I'm working on it, and as I'm growing older, stuff like that is less frequent. But I just thought it was. I related to that. I could relate to that basically. Yeah, I just love Boruto's character, man. You guys know it. And seeing Naruto and Boruto interacting in this episode, it was just so satisfying. Like, just remember, like, I don't know, 50, 60 episodes ago, how there were many conflicts between the two. And now, again, it's genuine. It's like, it's nice. It's there aren't any, unnecessary conflicts or anything like that. It's very enjoyable. Their relationship progressed a lot throughout this series. And that's one of my favorite aspects of the Boruto anime. Anyway, it was a cute little scene where Boruto was asking Naruto to train with him, I guess. Naruto got him this kunai, I think from Tenten's shop or whatever. Just overall a very nice father-son moment to conclude the episode. And at the end, you see a couple of other kids with their parents, because, it was Parents and Child's Day or whatever. I don't know how they called it in the anime. Overall, this slice of life episode gets a fucking 10 out of 10 for me. And I'm gonna say it. It's one of my favorite episodes. Like, this was episode 95, I believe, and it's definitely in my top 15 episodes, I'd say. Yeah, overall, a great episode, and I can't wait for the next one. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Twitter, Discord, Instagram, and second channel links are in the description of this video, and I'll see you in my next Boruto related video. Bye.